Hello everyone, Kent Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org. Good morning, everybody. It's morning where I am anyway. I want to do a little podcasting this morning. This is Kent Bressler out of Kerrville, Texas, and wanted to start with a prayer like we do every morning or every time we do one of these podcasts. So, Lord Jesus, your love for us is really all we need. Your preparation of a home, your preparation of a life, your preparation of your love, it's all appreciated. All of our focus must be on service, and that's provided through you with the power of prayer. Give us your grace and your strength to do your work. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Well, I'm going to start out this morning. Last night we had our support group, and there was a gal here, and her name is Susan McGuire, and she comes as a brand new publisher at the age of 77. And she's given me permission to use the term elderly because that's about where I'm at. Anyway, she's written a children's book, and she's been after this publication of this book for a long period of time, and it's been kind of expensive for her, but it's pretty cool. She comes to our support group because her kidneys at her age are deteriorating, and that she likes just coming to the group so that she can get a feel for what it's like with kidney disease, and she's been very faithful in coming. She wrote this book, and it's called Grammy, Get Your Glasses. And I read it last night. It's a short book. It's for four to 8-year-old kids. And she has published it now. And after looking very hard for a good publisher, that publisher has gotten it all done, and she shared it with us. And you can find it at tkkgpublishing.com. Granny, get your glasses. She's been going around Texas to schools and reading this to four to 8-year-olds, wherever they fall in the system anyway. And that's really giving her a good feeling. That's what she's doing it for. I don't think it's for the money. But you can get it on Amazon, and it'd be a great gift. And in my mind, I think I'm going to try and buy a few of them and take them up to the schools just to let the kids know what it's like to have Grammy around. Me being a grandpa, it's fun to tweak this elderly mind, and she's really done a good job of it. And I am not going to tell you what the price is because it's very affordable. So do your homework and go online and check it out. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce a really close friend of mine who is, I think, one of the best kidney champions that we have in Texas, and then probably in the whole workforce when it comes to kidney disease. She is the executive director of Kidney Solutions. And Kidney Solutions, as you know, is our sponsor, and I'm part of this whole process at Kidney Solutions. And I asked her to come on today because I want her to tell you her story, number one, but I also want her to tell you about how Kidney Solutions functions so that you can get the word out that we're out there for you. So, Amanda, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. We're getting a good start here this morning. I'm really interested to see, first of all, how you're doing, secondly, how your dad's doing, and then third, how is Kidney Solutions doing?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. My kids are on spring break right now, so um, I feel like we've had success because it's Friday and we're all still happy and doing well. I have 5 kids, my oldest, and they're all home because I have 2 college kids that are home for spring break. So I have a 20-year-old who's in college. I have an 18-year-old who's in college, and then I have my high schooler who's 17. I have Sophia who is 6, and I have Evan who is 5. So yeah, I'd say they're all doing well. They all know that they're loved. They've all been fed, and so I say I claim success on that.
There you go.
But I am doing well. A little bit about who I am, and thank you, Kent, for your kind words. I certainly don't feel that way. I'm just
Excuse
a
me.
kidney donor. Is how I see myself. But I donated my kidney this summer. It'll be 4 years that I donated my kidney to my father. As most kidney donors share, if I could do it over again, I would. If I could do it to help every patient who was in need of a kidney, I would. I do it in a heartbeat. So my father was diagnosed with kidney cancer about, let's see, it's going to now be almost 8 years. Had his kidney removed and immediately went on dialysis. He was stage 3 at the time. And they removed his kidney. And so the other kidney he had was not functioning very well. And so he immediately went on dialysis. So, having cancer, he had to be on dialysis or cancer free for 5 years. And so that, ending that 5th year, I started the testing process, without his knowledge, because I know my dad, and I knew that he would not want me to donate. He wouldn't be able to be okay with taking from his daughter, which of course I don't see it that way at all. But secretly got tested and was given the fantastic news that I was a perfect match for him. And so one Christmas morning, I had put a video together on my little iPad and had him unwrap that for Christmas. And ultimately, it was just a little montage of pictures of he and I. And, you know, one of the last clips was, "You have been there for me." Oh, goodness, I do not want to cry.
Oh, it's okay.
But it was, "You, Dad, have been there for me my whole life. And now it's time for me to be there for you." And it was a picture of a kidney and myself. And it said, "I am a match." And so about, a few months later, it was in the summertime when all my kids were home and I didn't have to worry about the drop off and pick up from school. I donated my kidney to him, and it was an absolutely marvelous day. My family and I will never forget that day, that the anticipation of having this transplant, the years that we would have with him, and him having a second chance at life. We were all very, very excited. We were looking forward to it. God was definitely at the center of not only his prayers and my parents' prayers, but my prayers. And it was a wonderful, wonderful transplant. It was a success. Dad's creatinine has always been at a good, solid 1. The kidney has done him wonders. And this is actually the very first platform, your podcast, Kent, that I'm actually able to share the second half of this transplant story. So
Yes.
forgive me if I am emotional.
And listen, Amanda, this is a human platform. This is a feeling platform. This is not a radio broadcast. And your emotions and your feelings now reflect probably a lot of people's feelings. All right. And they want to hear this story. And so I guess you grind it out. That's what I'm going to say. because we're with you. We got your back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as a transplant recipient, you know, my dad was getting labs done. Like I said, this summer it'll be 4 years. Nothing was ever picked up. Like I said, his kidney has been functioning wonderfully. However, this past November of 2019, my father is an avid hunter, and that is like his second home. That's his retreat. I know many of you may or may not know, but Kent Bressler has a nice lake house, and he likes to retreat to that. My dad has a lease in Junction, Texas, and one weekend my dad was out there. He woke up, and that Saturday morning felt very weak. He ended up falling right outside his cabin and was on the ground for at least 4 hours. Really long story short, we finally got him to the hospital, where they ran, I mean, any test imaginable my dad had done on him. And sadly, they discovered that he had tumors on his lungs. And sad to say, they discovered that dad has stage 4 kidney cancer. However, the ironic thing is there is nothing on or in his kidney. His kidney is working fantastic. It is one of his viable organs right now. And so I'm very proud to say that that kidney is kicking, and it's keeping him at his best health as possible right now. So we were slapped with stage 4 kidney cancer in November. We're not expecting that. We were not expecting that at all. And it has been definitely a journey. We are now, I believe, in March. I think the past few months have just been a complete fog for me. But my father is 78 years old. He just turned, not 78. Oh my goodness. My father is 68 years old. He just turned 68. 68. And chemotherapy was not an option for him. And so his oncologist suggested something called immunotherapy. And so he had a port placed, as any chemotherapy patient, I believe, receives. Right. They get a port. So dad had a port put in. He had, starting in January, the beginning of January, he has had 3 immunotherapy transfusions. The last 3 weeks, like I said, we're in March now. The last 3-4 weeks have just been probably our worst nightmare. We thought we were prepared for perhaps what we thought was to come, but nothing could have prepared us for what we've been through thus far. His immunotherapy, sadly, was doing him more harm than good.
Yeah.
And I think this is so important, and any platform that I am given, I want to share this because, when my father got the visit from the oncologist told him, "You have stage 4 kidney cancer. And if you could have been dealt any cancer, you got the worst one." There have been little studies on this type of cancer that you have. Because you had a transplant, you got a brand new kidney, and that cancer was dormant. It was not picked up at all, ever. And when it was finally diagnosed, it was already to a stage 4. So having had the kidney cancer, having been on dialysis 5 years, having a great match and a kidney transplant, 3 years later, you still have the cancer, and now it's at stage 4. So his oncologist was very clear in saying, look, sir, and I'll never forget him saying this to my father, every coin has 2 sides. Your coin landed on the wrong side. You just got the raw end of the deal. And I'll never forget him saying that. And it hurt my heart, and it hurts my heart now because he was right. He was right. Like I said, my father had 3 transfusions, and about a week ago, he finally went to the hospital. He had been in the hospital 3 different times in a span of only 2 weeks. It's very important for me to share what my dad thus far has gone through, because so little studies have been done on apparently this cancer, the treatment,
Right.
and where we're at now. And so, you know, I know that we're all adults, and I just want to share the rawness of what this has done to my dad. So the last, like I said, in a 3-week span, in a 2-week span, in a 2-week span, my father was hospitalized a total of 3 times. And every single time he had the same symptoms. And so I'm going to share a little bit of what my mom and I experienced with my dad. And my dad is one amazing man, one of the most wonderful men you will ever meet. And so, as raw and honest as I'm going to be, please understand that this was very, very difficult to witness as a daughter. But my father suffered, and I am going to try to be as descriptive as I can, because I just think it's so important to grasp the enormity of what cancer not only does to the patient, but to the family. So my father had 3 transfusions. His transfusions lasted about an hour at our local Texas oncology clinic. Side effects were minimum to none. He had a lot of fatigue, and I feel as every week passed, that fatigue increased. But generally speaking, that was the extent of his side effect, which is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. However, like I said, in the past couple of weeks, he grew sicker, and every single time, as I said, it was the same. And it started with vomiting. Now, I am a mom of 5 kids. I have seen vomit. This was profound.
Yeah.
The vomit that my dad experienced was profound, and it was profuse vomiting. Liters, gallons of green vomit. And it would last maybe 20 minutes, and then he'd lay down. He'd lay down exhausted. He'd sleep for about an hour, 2 hours, wake up, and there's the vomiting again.
Start all over.
Horrible stomach cramps where my father was moaning. And I do have to interject myself right here and make it very clear that my father and hospitals do not go. My father will do anything and everything to avoid going to the hospital. And so I just had to mention that very known fact about my dad. And so he would wake up from his hour. If we're lucky, he slept 2 hours. He'd wake up from that nap with, again, that profound vomiting, horrible stomach cramps where he's moaning. And then 2 to 3 hours into that, it would start with diarrhea. And the same thing, it was not normal. diarrhea that we see with the stomach bug, with food poisoning. It was to a different level. And again, it got to a point where my sweet, beautiful, handsome father was on the toilet. And this is what cancer is. On the toilet, becoming dehydrated by the hour. After 3 hours, and I understand many of you may be thinking, we'll get him to the hospital. He should have been in the hospital immediately. And you're probably right. But you don't know my dad.
Yeah, we do. You're right.
And so
anything to stay out of the hospital.
Absolutely. And that was what was drilled in us as well before he started his cancer treatment. The hospital is not where you want to be. So 3, 4, 5 hours, by the 6th hour, 5th or 6th hour of him just profusely vomiting, having diarrhea, he would start to shake very, very much, very just trembly. And it would get to a point where he was so weak that he couldn't stand on his own. Once he could not stand on his own, we obviously knew, Dad, we're calling EMS. There's just no question. That happened the first time. He got hospitalized. They tested him for everything. His sugars had reached almost 600. And so they diagnosed him, the first hospitalization, with DKA. We had never experienced that in our lives. My father is a diabetic, but had never been hospitalized, had never been diagnosed for anything like that ever before. He was diagnosed with that. In our gut, we knew this is probably a side effect from his treatment, but it's fine. Let's diagnose him with that. And it was awful, because you're in the hospital and one thinks, well, when you're in the hospital, your side effects are going to stop because you're in the hospital, they're treating you. And it didn't. His diarrhea continued and continued and continued. My dad was finally discharged that first time, got sent home. 24 hours later, same exact thing happened again. It started with, again, just horrible vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps. And I have my dad, who had just spent 4 days in the hospital, tell me, baby, if you love your dad, you will not call the ambulance.
Yeah.
And again, I am sharing all this because this is cancer. And everybody deals with it differently. And this is how my family and I dealt with it. And I said, okay, Dad, it's fine. It's fine. Again, same exact symptoms, vomiting, napping in between because he's exhausted. It would get to a point where he would just become dehydrated.
Yeah. And completely couldn't do anything. Couldn't get
Absolutely.
up.
Could not stand up.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So there we go again in the ER, tiny ER room. He's feeling awful, still continuing with diarrhea in the ER. It was absolutely terrifying and heartbreaking. My father at this point had lost at least 15 pounds. And it was heartbreaking. My dad's second hospital visit, they did it again. They tested for absolutely everything. An infectious disease doctor finally came in that second hospital visit and confirmed to my dad that every test they had run came back negative. And ultimately, this was all just a side effect from the treatment that should have been helping him.
The immuno treatment for the cancer.
Yes. And so he said, you need to call your oncologist. The oncologist came in and he said, this treatment is doing more harm to you than good. Every time that my dad would go into the hospital, his creatinine would jump to 1.6, 1.7. By the time dad was discharged, his creatinine was back at 1.
Yeah.
And so his oncologist agreed that this treatment is just doing more harm. It's attacking your organs, and it's going to continue to attack your organs and ultimately attack your kidney. And we don't want that. So my father and the oncologist both agreed that treatment was it just needed to stop.
Okay.
And so it has been about 2 weeks that my father has made the decision to stop treatment, and his oncologist agreed with it. Last Friday, which was a week from today, and again, this is part of our cancer journey, and I'm going to share it with everybody because it's what we have faced, and I want to be as real and raw and transparent as I can in hopes that it can help another family. But that Friday, the third time my dad had to be admitted for the same symptoms, just dehydration, vomit, again, the same thing. I was that annoying family member who was the voice for my father. And I called everybody who would answer the phone. How can you help us? My dad is here at home. This is the third time this has happened. He's throwing up profusely. Can somebody please help us? He does not want to go to the ER. The ER is just not fun for anyone. Finally, after so many phone calls and so many prayers, we finally got his transplant doctor, Dr. Diaz-Wong, to call me back and say, I'm going to get him a room where he can just come to the hospital and go straight into a room, no ER. And so that essentially is what happened the third visit. And that Friday was one of the craziest life roller coaster rides I have ever taken, because we had a hospice representative and a palliative representative come talk to us about where my father should be placed and what option is best for him for at-home care. We spent 4 hours, my mom, my father, and I. My father, who was not feeling well at all, spent 4 hours talking about essentially where he would die. And that was our reality. That should dad go to hospice, if he goes to hospice, this kidney that is working perfectly fine, those medications will no longer be given. Palliative, what is palliative care? We're brand new to all of this, and we were so overwhelmed with all of the information that was given to us. You guys, in that 4th hour, in comes Dr. Diaz-Wong, and he is like, please, 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 please give me one more shot at helping you. He says, I don't believe that you are quite ready for hospice. Hospice is not, you're not there yet. Can you please, talking to my dad, give me 24 more hours here in the hospital? Mind you, this is my dad's 3rd visit, and he is just done with the hospital.
He'd been done with it. Yep.
He was done with it. So my father agreed, and Dr. Wong has put my dad on 24-hour Zofran. Zofran is a nausea medication. When he was on immunotherapy, that was prescribed to him by his oncologist. The Zofran was not working. He was throwing it up. So Dr. Wong said, why don't we give you Zofran 24/7, whether you need it or not. And we're going to give you a medication for stomach cramps 24/7. Let's see, give me 24 hours and see how this does.
Yes.
It has been a week. It has been 1 week today, and my father has been able to be home. He went to have lunch with a brother yesterday. He is doing well, and we are literally placing our hands and our faith and our time in God, and we are treating every day with him as a gift, because we know that it right now is in God's hands. And you guys, if I could do something for my dad, if I could give him something else, if I could give him my other kidney and keep him with us here longer, I would do it in a heartbeat. But that is not our reality. Our reality is dad has stage 4 kidney cancer. He is not getting treated for it. And so I find it as a blessing. It is a blessing. Discovering his diagnosis has given me an opportunity to tell my dad every single day, multiple times a day, I love you, Dad. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for everything you have given me. I love you. I love you so much. And so at the end of our day, we have pretty much been given no choice but to accept this, and accept this with tons of faith. And that is exactly what we're clinging on to, is our faith. And so that's kind of where we're at right now with our kidney transplant journey.
You know, I don't know how you did that, and we talked about this early on. Jason and I talked about it. If this was the right time. If this was the right time to bring you on, I've wanted to bring you on for a good, and that I've gotten to be part of this just in phone conversation with you. But I want you to know that I deeply believe that what you just did was the best thing you could do, not only for yourself, but for the public.
Oh, I hope so.
People experience this all the time, right? It's not unique, but it's individualized. It's something that happens to each and every one of us at some point in time. Cancer is horrible.
Yeah.
And you have always wanted comfort for your dad. All right? Peace and comfort. And that's all he's asked for.
Mm-hmm.
He's wrote out all of this stuff like a knight in shining armor to you.
Absolutely.
But guess what? He is still the one that makes the decision. Isn't that the point?
Yep.
You help him with it. You've done everything you can possibly do. And now you're doing what is most important to him, speaking to you as a father. The love of a daughter is by far more important than all the pain and suffering that you go through. Just knowing that you're there along with your mom has been pure medicine for him. And that's just me saying that God does love you, and you know that.
Yeah.
And that's what you've held on. Now you hold on to Baldo. You hold on to your dad. Give him a chance to express himself, but give him a chance to be at peace. Give him some comfort.
Yep.
That's all that you want for him, and I believe that's what he wants for himself.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So hit pain, if there begins to be pain, you need to entertain getting that handled as quickly as possible. Yes. And I don't need to talk to you about that. You understand all this. I really appreciate it, and God bless you. I love you a bunch.
Thank you so much, Kent. Thank you.